Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani. I have with me in the studio today a great guest. He is Frank Nweke the second. You know, Nigerians used to call him Frank Nweke Jr. But since his father passed away in 2012, his name changed. Frank Jr. the second.
Frank Nweke.
Frank Nweke the second.
Yes.
Frank Nweke the second. You're welcome to the
Thank
studio.
you, Father.
Thank you very much. And he tells me that his son has taken Frank Nweke the third. So we have a dynasty. Frank Nweke the second was Minister of Information and National Orientation during the Obasanjo era, and he continued to be very active on the national level as the Director General of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Everyone saw the activities of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and Frank Nweke the second was the Director General, and that was until recently, right?
Yes, until 2014, November of 2014.
Until November of 2014. So he has continued to be active, and only recently we met at a forum discussing the issues of this country and how to move forward. Today we are to discuss some of the current issues about our national unity. But before then, I'd like to read a short text, excerpts from Proverbs chapter 29. Proverbs chapter 29 verse 2 says, "When the righteous are in power, the people rejoice. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked rule, the people groan." When the wicked rule, it didn't say when the wicked are in authority. It says when the wicked rule, the people groan. That is Proverbs chapter 29 verse 2. Now 29 verse 16 says, "When the wicked are in authority, transgression increases, but the righteous will look upon their downfall." Proverbs chapter 29 verse 18 then says, "Where there is no prophecy or where there is no vision, the people do perish." Where there is no vision, the people do perish. Now, before I bring our guest in for discussing the topic of our national unity or lack of it, let me read a statement issued in the last few days by a Sierra Leonean living in the US called Omar Bangura. Omar Bangura from Sierra Leone, who lives in the US, calls Nigerians to beware. He says, "I don't think you guys know," you guys mean Nigerians, "I don't think you guys know what you are playing with. You can call each other names and laugh about it now, but when you end up inciting hate here, as I read through your posts here, and a real civil war starts in your country, you will regret what you are doing now. Your religious and political leaders are trying to divide you between religious lines, and you are helping them to do that rather than standing up and say, we are all Nigerians, never mind our tribe, region or religion. That's the only stand that will save your blessed nation. The foreign powers pushing the government to take certain decisions will abandon you when you start killing one another and reject you from running to their countries. So be careful. Our 11-year war in Sierra Leone was not even based on religious or tribal differences, and see what we did to our country. The worst conflicts are those based on tribal and religious differences. See Central Africa, see Bosnia, South Sudan, and Rwanda. To have a better knowledge of this, please watch the documentary movie called Hotel Rwanda, or Sometime in April. My heart bleeds when I read what you guys are saying, because I know what this will lead to. You will be the losers. All of you, you will be the losers. Christians, Muslim, Igbo, Yoruba, or Hausa. Stand as one and save your nation together, because you have only one Nigeria that has the potential to lead Africa. Omar Bangura, a Sierra Leonean, warning Nigerians. Chief Nweke II, Frank Nweke II, you have heard Not only the text of Proverbs chapter 29 verse 2, but also the warning from a Sierra Leonean who recently they came out of an 11-year war. What do you have to say about the present situation?
Well, thank you, Father Ehusani, for having me here today. Like I said before we came into the studio, I've followed you right from your time in the Catholic Secretariat, and I usually enjoy your teachings. The situation in the country today I consider rather unfortunate. Unfortunate, not just on a personal level, but also on from the level of on the basis of from the perspective of a patriot. I have a very unique background. I was born in Kano.
Born in Kano?
Yes, I was born in Kano. And from the eastern part of the country, Enugu State precisely. My parents were from there. I grew up in Lagos. I grew up in Maiduguri. I had the opportunity to attend one of the so-called unity colleges.
Okay.
Federal Government College, Maiduguri.
Federal Government College, Maiduguri.
Yes, from 1977 to 1982. And I had the rare privilege of spending my boyhood with people from very diverse backgrounds. I had people, Basi Antia, who's a professor of linguistics, is now at the University of Cape Town. Babatunde Ogunye is a PhD chemical engineering. He's working with the second largest oil company in the world. He's in Houston. Moses Bajomo is executive director in charge of operations at the stock exchange. Sule Sani works with Nigerian Immigration Service. I have Rear Admiral Aliu Boma of Nigerian Navy. He's, I think probably from Niger State or Gombe State, one of these places. All of these people I grew up with. Some of my best friends were Northerners, Yorubas. We grew up as boys. Yes. No one knew what life held, what the future held. We trusted each other. We built relationships that we have maintained up to today.
Which is the reason for the setting up the unity schools.
Of the unity schools in the first place.
Yes.
And so I'm sitting here, or I turn on the radio, or I'm reading the papers, or I'm on social media, and I listen or read to the kind of hate that is being spewed, not just by young people,
but by older people.
By older people. People who should know better. People to whom Nigeria had given so much. And they are promoting such hate. And I consider their actions to be wicked. I consider it to be wicked because they should know better. They should know better. So, in summary, sir, we must check ourselves. Saner minds must speak up before it is too late.
Yes.
And as I sit at this program today, I want to call on Nigerians to please accommodate each other. Even husband and wife would have their differences. But you learn, for the sake of so many things that you hold dear, to accommodate each other. And so I do not see basic differences in who we are as human beings. First and foremost, we're human beings. And therefore, to really preach the kind of hate that we have seen in the last couple of weeks is totally unacceptable. It is ill-advised. And I pray that the good Lord would touch the hearts of the people who are promoting some of these disunity and misunderstanding, and that they can really begin to talk about love and peace for the sake of our country, for the sake of our children.
Amen. As you know, before we came into the studio, we were at Mass, and this was our main intention of prayer today, for unity in this country and for peace. This heightened tension, it frightens anyone.
Yes.
Now, if we may say, for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, what are actually the basic issues of the recent... I was out of the country when this recent thing started. What are the basic issues? I know that we have all kinds of issues that make all our youth everywhere resting. But what triggered this recent crisis?
Well, for me, I mean, this particular crisis has been long in the making, or long in coming. Okay. And of course, a lot of the reactions that we've seen is on the basis of certain statements considered very provocative coming from the leader of IPOB, the indigenous peoples of Biafra leader, a gentleman called Nnamdi Kanu. And but the entire situation was further exacerbated by the declaration
Arewa Youth.
by the declaration of commemoration, a public holiday to commemorate the declaration of Biafra about 50 years ago, which was on May 30, when it was southeastern states and peoples were asked to stay back to stay at home. And so the next thing was the statement by the Arewa Youth, Northern Youth Group, who then said they were giving certain people in Nigeria 3 months notice to quit their own part of the country. That is really, to my recollection, the basis of the current crisis.
Do these various ethnic associations, ethnic support group, whatever you call them, whether it is IPOB or Arewa Youth or Afenifere or whatever, do they really represent the people of those regions fully? Because I come from a place considered the North. I don't know who is president or secretary or officials of Arewa Youth. I don't know who they are. They don't represent me. So, what is the credibility of these organizations in terms of representation of the sentiments of the generality of the people, the common people? Do they really represent the people?
The representative claim that they make is suspect, as far as I'm concerned. Correct. Right? Because when a democracy, there are very strong institutions that are in place, or very clear, there are institutions that are recognized as representing the people. If you look across the entire country, you have 36 states, you have governors, democratically elected governors
from those places.
You have houses of assembly, and these are representatives elected democratically, in the various states of the federation. Nationally, you have of course, you have the Senate, where representatives of the country sit. You also have the House of Representatives, where you have representatives of people sitting. Constitutionally speaking, these are the peoples that represent the diverse groups of people in our country. But there's also the socio-cultural groups.
Okay.
I'll be worried today if Ohaneze Ndigbo were to make a statement that I consider provocative, insensitive, inciting, disrespectful, uncivil. I'll be much more concerned.
I think at some point the Ohaneze Ndigbo dissociated itself.
So I'm coming to that. You look at the Afenifere group, for instance. If the Afenifere group were to speak, I would take what Afenifere group has said seriously, because they are a recognized socio-cultural group. And there are similar groups like that across the country. People whose membership cut across seasoned.
We know who they are.
We know who they are. These are accomplished people. These are they have very strong representation. So, but for this new this new what should I call them? Exuberant groups emerging,
of angry young people,
who have emerged from different parts of the country and who have or continue to make these provocative statements. Personally, they do not speak for me, and I believe that they do not speak for majority.
Just as I said, anybody who goes away from the North and says he's speaking for me, I'll say, who are you to speak for me?
Absolutely. And it's interesting that in the last week in particular, I've seen a statement released by the Southern People's Assembly. I've also seen a statement released by another, the Arewa Elders Council or something. I've seen statements released by the Middle Belt have also spoken. Another group have said they are Rongel, Riverine group so clearly you can see that, or rather let me say that I'm pleased in a way that people have also spoken up.
That there is no united front.
Yes, there's no cohesion,
yes.
In those claims made by the various people, right? So you say you are representing me, you've drawn a map. Somebody's saying to you, well, you can draw a map in your house. Don't even approach me because I'm not part of it. So that's also something to be on a lighter note, I'm told that
a map was drawn by the Arewa youth that excise Igala people from the north and say that they are Igbo, and then the Igala came and said, no, wait.
It's very interesting, but I haven't even seen that one.
Yes.
But for me, I think that is quite heartening.
Yeah.
To really see, and on other dimensions, sir, my family is a very cosmopolitan family. I have one of my brothers who lives in Aberdeen. His wife is from Plateau State.
Plateau State. Okay.
Yes. I have my youngest brother, Andrew. Andrew's wife is from Kwara State, and Ilorin. I have another brother whose wife is Japanese. So we're sitting here, and you're telling me that you're exercising as you're giving me quick notice for what to happen.
It doesn't make
How?
sense. It doesn't make sense.
So what will happen to our wives? What will happen to our children born
across the divide, as it were?
So it makes no sense, and I'm really happy that someone like Governor El-Rufai has came out.
Yes.
The Northern Governors Forum came out very strongly.
Yes.
I'm also very pleased that the Southeast Governors Forum has also, they also came out and spoke very strongly in a very, very, what I consider a very mature, very pragmatic statement that they released. I felt extremely pleased and proud after I read their
we had our civil war. Painful civil war, and lost a number of our countrymen and women. Not only in the east, but also especially middle belt, where a lot of the poor soldiers, Now, a lot of the people who seem to be championing this, they appear to be people who were born after 1970, who did not experience the horror of war. Because those who experience the horror of war, what I hear from the generation that experienced the horror of war is, hey, we are not ready for this. It is worrying, as you say, that after over 100 years, because even before the 1914 amalgamation, Nigerians were interacting. See, between the Benin people and the Igbo across the river, there was a lot of interaction already. Between the north and the Yoruba land or your Ilorin, there was already a lot of interaction.
Indeed.
So we have been one people for a very long time, relating very closely. It is true that we had a republican system of government where each place was more or less independent, but on the commercial level and on the social level, there was a rich interaction that was going on. To the extent that, as I said earlier, you go somewhere and we are recognized as Nigerians by the way we behave.
Indeed.
The South African doesn't doubt the difference between a Tanzanian and a Nigerian.
Yeah, absolutely.
The observant person in the UK knows between a Jamaican and a Nigerian, he knows immediately. These are Nigerians. There is so much that makes us similar, but we take them for granted. I mean, look at our food. Is there anywhere you go to in Africa that has rich assortment of foods as we have, and Nigerians enjoy it? We all enjoy pounded yam wherever it started from. We all enjoy eba, we all amala, we enjoy the various soup, idikaikong. Nigerians now
tuwon shinkafa,
yes,
miyan kuka,
yes. So it doesn't matter where, yes,
and the rest of them. These are things
that build a people up as one people. It is true that we have not had governance, we have been having problems with governance, but and I say that the problems we have been having with leadership and governance, it cuts across.
Indeed. And I did make this point a few days ago at a public
forum,
a discourse we had, something about I think democracy in emerging, something about emerging democracies with Professor Richard Joseph. And I said this, sir, our problems, to my mind, all the symptoms that we're seeing today, the anger, the frustration, the ethnic tensions, right? It's not on account of significant cultural differences as such. I'm not saying there are no cultural differences. I'm not suggesting that cultural differences don't play a role in social interaction. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, sir, is that today the tensions that we see is more than anything else underpinned by poor governance, misgovernance, poor leadership, poverty, across the length and breadth of this country.
Yes.
And I say this because certain factors that people consider to be advantageous in reality have not translated to be advantages.
Yes.
Really. So somebody says, no, the North, they've been ruling forever. They have been the ones that
But
yes,
go to the North and see the place.
What exactly is happening there? The level of poverty is endemic. Out of school children is out of this world, the highest in the world. So what has this advantage conferred on them? Let's go to my part of the country. Go to the southeastern part of the country. Poverty is still there. You go to the southwest, it's the same thing. Outside Lagos, let's go to the other states and see what the situation is with the peoples of our country. So what I'm saying, sir, is that it's a matter of leadership, quality governance, for people to arise and understand that governance is serious business. Taking me to the passages you read in Ecclesiastes and
Proverbs.
In Proverbs, governance is serious business.
Yes.
There's a spiritual dimension
To it, of course.
that God elevates you or anybody as governor, as local government chairman, as president, elevates you and then burdens you with the responsibility for 200 million people, for 3 million people, for 10 million people, for 18 million people, say in Lagos, or 20 million people in different parts of the country. It's a spiritual responsibility.
Yes.
Literally speaking, you have the power of life and death
Yes, of course.
in your hands. If you say go and hang this person, you sign off, the person is hanged. If you say give this person land, the person gets land. If you say listen, feed these children, and you decide to feed children who are in school, you create an entire generation of well-fed, well-nurtured children whose faculty will be well developed because you chose to take a decision that these children must live and they must get quality education. So, or you choose to ensure that quality healthcare is provided such that these children grow up healthy, they are immunized, and they are cared for, and they are nurtured by parents who understand the importance of this nurture, and they grow up to be healthy adults contributing to the building of society.
Is it not true that a lot of these sentiments,
Yes.
these destructive, negative sentiments all over the place, are often based on ignorance? And mutual ignorance,
Yes.
ignorance of one another.
Yes.
Because there seems to be the impression, let's say, beginning from the iPod section, iPod, seems to be the impression that Igbos are the only victims, and that the rest of the country is enjoying, for example.
Exactly my point.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm making. You see, I mean, it's coming out of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group as Director General. I mean, it's a think tank. It's an advocacy group. I'm very much at home with facts, statistics, and the kinds of things that are happening, not just locally but nationally as well. You can compare and see what is happening in India, what is happening in Brazil, what is happening in Indonesia, what's happening in Malaysia. These are comparator countries that you have with Nigeria, and you find that these things are not peculiar to us. Number one, and then it's not peculiar to any group of people within Nigeria, which is why I'm saying that I'm aware that there's no part of this country that you can say has any important developmental advantage,
breakthrough over
the others. I mean, because apart from the urban centers, the major urban centers, the bulk of the rest of Nigeria live in abject poverty.
That is the point, and that I would like to highlight, or you to highlight, the fact that Nigerians, poor Nigerians in Aba, poor Nigerians in Abakaliki or in Enugu seem to think that we are where we are because we have been neglected as Igbos. But you see, have you gone to Damaturu? Have you gone to Awe? Have you gone to this to see the poverty of the people in those areas, to actually say that per capita development in the eastern part of Nigeria per capita seems to appear to, bad as the situation is, per capita they appear better.
In that sense, yes, absolutely, you're correct. You're very correct. Because
whereas you could say that, okay, the Igbos had a culture of mutual support, of brother supporting brother, people. So the Igbos had, this commitment to the village, commitment to whatever. It has helped Igbo land to be a little, so that you don't have in Igbo land the kind of criminal destitution that you have in northern Nigeria.
But it is not on account
of governance.
Of governance.
Sure.
It's not on account of governance.
Sure.
And it's funny, the reference you made earlier, Father, when you were at the introductory stages. The prosperity gospel you were talking about.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, so there's this prevalence, the preaching of this prosperity gospel. Of course, the Bible, the Almighty God, I won't go into theology, you know that much better than me. But yes, the humanity was not created to live in poverty. But like you made the point yesterday, there's a natural order of things.
Yes.
And even the Bible says it that a man who does not work should
not eat.
And so, and I also have a problem, but again, sometimes, and correct me, sir, it would be good to have your views. I also have a problem with a clergy that lives in opulence,
while the people are
live in abject and
embarrassing
absolute
poverty. Of course, I have a problem with it.
I personally have a problem with it. Maybe there's some
theological
explanation.
There is no theological explanation for it.
So I have a problem with it. Now, it's the same way. But you see, sir, the comparison I want to draw, you look at, say, Northern Nigeria, for instance, where people are made to believe that it is their place, it is their lot to be poor,
while it is the lot of others
to be rich and to lead and to provide for them.
Primitive feudalism.
Look at that. So you can see on this side, supposedly religious, but you can also see on the other side, again on the basis of religion, some people are telling them, no, it's your place to be on the streets, to beg, to be an almajiri, and to cater to my needs, whilst I enjoy myself. And on the other side,
we are about to end this segment of the program.
Yes.
We shall have another segment, but before we close,
yes,
I, as a student of theology,
yes, sir,
will tell you that you don't need to be a student of theology. Simply reading your Bible,
yes,
it is clear that the preacher of the gospel,
yes,
Jesus Christ says very clearly, yes, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Yes.
As you did it to the least of my brethren, you did it to me. I was hungry, you did not feed me. I was thirsty, I was naked. There is no room for islands of affluence amidst a sea of poverty in Nigeria. In Christianity, I must say. There is no room for preachers of the gospel to become rich out of exploiting their people, and they flying private jets and their people living in poverty. There is no basis in Christianity for it. And I may even hazard the guess to say that even in Islam, that perhaps it is a misunderstanding of some secret text for anyone to think that there is room for that kind of primitive greed and feudalism to thrive in any society. And so how do we get Nigeria back in spite of all these fires that are burning all over the place? How do we put down the fires? Just a word in minute.
For me, just very quickly, the people who are in political authority today must rise up to the responsibility of the offices that they hold.
Okay.
They must lead. I was personally disappointed that it took the government days
to respond to
the situation. I was really heartbroken. And I think it is irresponsible and totally unbecoming for those in political authority who have responsibility for the security, for the safety, for the welfare and the well-being of the Nigerian people to be so lackadaisical in their response
on something that can break the country.
I thought that was totally unacceptable to someone like me.
On that note, we shall end this segment and we'll have Frank Nweke the second back to the studio to discuss this very burning issue. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Father. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Why isn't it possible for a husband or a wife to say, I am sorry? Please, thank you. These are basic acts of courtesy, and yet it's lacking. Are we grooming more men and women who lack just the basic rules of courtesy?
One survey found Nigerians the most religious people in the world.
Then the next survey,
the corruption index found Nigeria, I think, the second most corrupt country in the world that same year. And then another survey found Nigerians the happiest people on earth. And so we seem to be a society of contradictions.
That is it. Being Christian is no longer a question of my flesh, of my belonging to one ethnic group of my belonging to one descent, or my belonging to one sector of the society or the other. But it means being born of God.
I know, for example, at my age, there are some words till today I cannot say. But you find 3, 5, 7-year-old children just peeling it on the street. And it doesn't matter. And in fact, it is seen as a level of sophistication.
A big man was certainly handcuffed, and hair was let loose. And I had to ask some of my colleagues, are you aware that on a daily basis, the ordinary people who have committed
Minor
trifling
malfeasance.
offenses are not only handcuffed, they are like chained.
Yes.
But nobody talks about them.
And thrown into Black Maria.
Thrown into Black Maria. Sometimes the Black Maria is put in the sun.
The tragedy of the military coup is set in motion a range of issues that so destabilize this country. And the result is that we've ended in the last 20 or 30 years with an academic community that has become so traumatized that it has also lost the capacity to even do what intellectuals and academicians ought to do.
When any generation failed to capture young men between the age of 15 and 25 in their generation and harvest them and deliberately and intentionally give them a sense of direction, a sense of national vision, and give them a meaning as to what it means to be a man. So when you fail to do that, instead of using their energy to build their environment, they will use it to destroy
everything that was ever built.
So if you look at what's going on in Nigeria, it's as a result of failed attempts, not just one generation, but several generations.
Once again today, I have a great friend, great guest in the studio. He is Frank Nweke II. Former Minister of Information and National Orientation and former Director General Nigerian Economic Summit Group. You're welcome.
Thank you.
To the studio once again.
So much.
The last time we met, we were discussing the current situation of tension in the country and the flashpoints of crisis, IPOB, the Northern or Ariwa Youth Forum, whatever group, everybody is calling for, okay, you stay at home on the anniversary of Biafra. The other said, okay, we give you 3 months to go, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, look, this is the common home of all of us. What's going on? That's what we discussed the last time. Now, today it is to say, what is the responsibility of Christians? In this country, Christians, there's all debate. Are we 50%, are we 55 or 60%, whatever. That's not relevant. In fact, where we are to show that we are real Christians is in our response to provocation. Jesus deals with it very much in the Sermon on the Mount. How do we respond when people provoke us? Do we respond like pagans or do we respond like Christians? How is it that when it comes to these ethnic matters, when it comes to these things, when you read the social media, you don't seem to be able to find out who is a Christian, who is a born-again Christian. The kind of venomous publications, posts that we see, we don't distinguish between who is Christian and who is not Christian. It could well be people who are pagans. And then in the midst of this current situation, what's supposed to happen in our churches? What's supposed to happen among Christians in Christian gatherings so that we may indeed be children of God promoting peace?
Well, thank you very much, Father. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, I really think that these are very trying times. And, you know, just listen to your opening statement. One is tempted to adopt a very safe, very, very safe response. Safe in the context of the reference I will make to what Jesus answered when the man asked him, if someone were to slap you, what should you do? How many times should you...
Should you take that before responding?
And he said, I think 77
times.
You can interpret that. What it means clearly is that you must never You must never
resort to violence.
You must never respond with aggression. You must never respond with anger. You must be accommodating. You must pursue the path of peace. And, sir, as I have read the Bible, I've come to the conclusion that it is a book of eternal truths. It's almost the manual of life.
Yes.
There's nothing that you're looking for about life, any aspect of life that you won't find in this Bible. It's there. And so in these trying times, my counsel would be that as Christians, we must learn restraint, accommodation, civility, love afresh. We must mind what we say, because a lot of the tension that we have today in the country is words.
What this person said, how this person responded.
How this person responded, that is what it is. So it's really, really important that we mind what we say, how we say it, where we say it, and when we say it.
The power of words.
It's just, and once you have said it out,
you can't take it back.
You can't take it back. I mean, every day, for instance, I receive all sorts of video clips, press statements coming from different people. I'm talking to some of my northern friends and brothers, and we're trying to find a way. And then before you know, something else comes. Frank, have you seen this? Can you imagine? We're trying to do this. This is the latest one now, and you're listening to some pervert who begins to make some statements, and you're wondering, is this a human being or not?
Who appears to have nothing at stake?
Absolutely nothing at stake. And so, and unfortunately, because of the kind of insightful and hateful things that such individuals say, emotions run very high.
It's beginning to generate
emotions on the other side.
Yes.
And so whatever you say, no matter how well you say it, no matter how women you are, they say, but this man has said this. And it takes you time again to say, listen, but he has said it, but I'm right here with you. Look at what the governors have said. Look at what these people have said. They are towing the path of peace.
Yeah. Now, that takes me to the whole power of the social media and the media in general. It's like when people see something on screen, it's more powerful than what you, who has been sitting with him for 10 years, said to him.
In fact, Father, I would say, sorry, I should have made some reference to social media. It was only recently that I began to actually get on social media. And the reason why I stayed away for a long time was very simple. There is no recourse to any kind of remedy. There is no accountability on social media.
So far, no accountability.
So one of the things I'm hoping that would happen as part of the evolutionary process for social media is that there will be an accountability framework in the coming years.
Yes.
Where people who post hateful things, who post false,
can be traced, and
who commit crime on social media. Because I don't know if you're aware that some people have been led to suicide in some parts of the world. Bullying, cyberbullying.
Yes.
A lot of cyber crime have been taking place because of this social media, the advent of social media. Yeah. So I think that hopefully these things will evolve. But of course, this is not to say that social media has not helped. It's helped society tremendously. I mean, I was part of some group yesterday where over 50,000 Christians were on Instagram worshiping. They were worshiping and praising God. Now, what church will accommodate 50,000 people in Nigeria today? Apart from when you have crusades, or you have,
not on a regular basis.
But not on a regular basis. But just at the touch of a button, 50,000 people can log on, 30,000 people can log on, and then they hear the word of God. They praise God, they worship God in a way that is unprecedented. So those advantages are there. You can alert. Okay, there was that incident in London, on the London Bridge,
yes.
And then your relatives who are in different parts of the world can actually report and say, "Listen, I'm safe." On Facebook, they say, "Look, I report I'm safe, just in case people are, their family in other parts of the world."
And immediately, within 5 minutes, all your relations have seen that you are safe.
That you're safe. And so those are very important advantages. Those are very, very important developments. How about even from a business angle, what it does for you? You can reach more people. You don't have to. You can save costs on transportation, costs even on security, all sorts of things, because you can reach people much more easily than. So those advantages are there, and that's why I'm saying that hopefully accountability will be strengthened in the coming months and years.
Yes. So the whole thing about even how Christians who are supposed to be knowledgeable. Part of what Jesus Christ has done for us is to heal the blind. And heal the blind, not just literally heal the person born blind or whatever, but to open up our minds and our perspectives.
Absolutely.
First, for example, to see our neighbor as brother, as sister. I mean, we say in Christ there is no East, no West, no Jew, no Gentile. You go to most churches in this country, you have the person sitting down here is Ishekiri, the next person is Igala, the next person is Igbo, the next person is this. And we go to the same church for 10 years. And we still can't see ourselves as brothers and sisters. What's going on? Something is seriously missing.
For me, I think that, sir, I think for me, I lay that at the foot of what I'll call elite conspiracy.
Elite conspiracy.
Elite conspiracy, because most of these things are often played up. The differences amongst our people are often played up.
And orchestrated.
When
somebody thinks he's cheated.
Somebody thinks that he's been cheated out of something that he's looking for, she's looking for, or that they thought they should have gotten and they haven't gotten.
Exactly.
That's what it is most of the time. Most of the time, that is really what it is. Amongst the ordinary peoples,
the interactions continue.
Interactions continue. You go to the markets, you go to the train stations, you go to the motor parks and things. The ordinary peoples of this country, as far as I'm concerned, do not have such fundamental differences and disagreements. And so I'm hopeful, I'm very hopeful, sir, that perhaps the elite can also see that it is in their interest to preserve the safety and security of not just our people, but also the sovereignty of our nation. Because if we have full-blown out
who will be safe?
Conflicts, this bullet does not know whether you are elite, does not know whether you are a member, an ordinary citizen. There's no way to know. There's no compass to know. And so again, the people in political authority, or people who are better placed than the others, must learn to show the way, must lead the way,
and guide the poor people,
and
help the poor people to know that when there is crisis, they often suffer more.
Absolutely.
A lot of the elite, a number of them have visas and can jump into the next plane.
Sir, you know what else? Most of their family members are not even here. Some of them carry dual passports. A whole lot of them carry dual passports. They are also, as they are citizens of Nigeria, they are also citizens of other countries.
Of the US, especially.
They have, and so many other places now where people offer you citizenship when you pay money. There are so many other smaller countries that do not. These are big countries, but there are so many other smaller countries, islands, that if you pay money, they'll give you passports. So a lot of these people in political authority have such privileges, and so they can make statements. They can say whatever they want, and
get ready to check out.
Ready anything that happens. So you guys are on your own. Meanwhile, the ordinary people of our country are mowed down. They are just like cannon fodder.
I mean, this is very serious. Before the elections, before the 2015 elections, you check for flights. Flights are all booked for the eve of the elections, meaning a lot of people were ready to check out in case there's any problem. And how come that our poor people cannot see this? That this is a elite conspiracy, and we who have no visas, who will have how come the poor people don't know this?
Well, sir, but how many of them know about flights? how many of them know about visas? That's the truth. The elite we're talking about. How many are we really? How many? What numbers can we put to it? What percentage of this population?
Less than 1% of the population.
Much less than that. Much less than that. People who have these privileges.
I just finished reading some voluminous book on Rwanda before the genocide. And that's part of what frightens me in the current situation. Rwanda before the genocide. The genocide of 1994, April 1994, did not just happen out of the blues. There were all kinds of provocative things that happened over the years, and in fact, there were minor genocides. I mean, 1973, they had 200,000 people killed. So, our people are playing with fire.
I tell you something, sir. one of the greatest the worst service that has been done to our nation and to our people is the elimination of the study of history from the curriculum of schools. That's one of the that's the greatest disservice that we've done to our country.
So we don't even know what came before.
And so you go to other countries. I have visited the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem. I visited that. I've gone to the Rwanda Memorial, and the emotional challenge that each of these visits posed to me, I cannot describe. And even though these things have happened long ago,
it's still fresh in memory.
The visualizations, the memorabilia, the bits and pieces that you see, the writings, will challenge any any normal human being,
and make you careful about
what you said. And yet, in our country, in nearly 4 years of civil war, we have never found the need to
document
things and to document the history and say, okay, this is what it is, this is what happened, as a way to help the successor generation to really understand, you know what, these are the dangers of war, and this is the reason why you ought to understand yourselves better and why you ought to really relate to each other in a much more careful
They say
way.
the one who does not learn from history is condemned to repeat the
George
mistakes.
Santayana, absolutely, who is condemned to repeat it.
Yes.
And so, thankfully, I know there's a small group now that is working to really document some of the things that happened because of the war. I'm also playing a small role in that. Hopefully, maybe things will begin to change.
I mean, how can a society say we don't study history? Just 2 weeks ago, I was reading the history of Jamaica, and the effort they made, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to put it together. This is part of our legacy. This is how it all started. Now, I took note of the fact that this book was a textbook for primary and secondary school. The history of Jamaica that I read and the West Indies that I read is a textbook in history for primary school and secondary school. I can't easily find such material.
I even did a bit of history growing up in primary school in Lagos, and then even in secondary school in FGC Maiduguri, we studied. We also advanced history of Nigeria, something more advanced than what I did in primary school, and then even to spice the whole thing, we studied ancient history. And to imagine
that
the education bureaucracy will now completely eliminate the study of history for whatever reason. I don't know what the rationale could have been. Because, sir, if, for instance, the history of our country, the history of the war, and so many other good things and bad things that have happened were documented. Hopefully, when people begin to make certain statements, even the younger people are able to tell them, "Look, you're wicked. You better.
I have a life to live.
I have a life to live. What are you doing? What are you saying? Did this not happen?" But that is not the case today. And so you see, today, because of the failure to document our past, you see the contentious debate about, oh, no, this is not what happened. Oh, no, this one says this is what happened. The other one said, no, you're trying to revise history. Then that also fuels the tension.
The tension.
And my position, sir, is this. Write what you remember.
Yes.
Let me write what I remember.
Someday,
write what you remember.
Someday
there will be some kind of convergence, hopefully. Yes. Or at least, even if you do not, one thing that everybody will probably agree on is that millions of people died,
and we messed things up.
Yes. And that we retrogressed.
Yes.
Question of who did what or who didn't do what may not get the details, but lives were lost.
Yes.
The entire country was at a standstill for those 4 years.
Yes.
And Nigeria could have been so much better.
Yes.
If that war hadn't been.
And that provocative statements are among the things that led to war.
Mm-hmm.
The Rwandan genocide. There were all kinds of things that prepared for it, but the trigger was a radio broadcast.
Yes. I'm trying to, when you mentioned the book you read, I was trying to remember one I read about I think it was this Canadian, was it Canadian or Belgian?
Belgian, it must be a Belgian
general.
Yes.
Who was, I think subsequently he lost his mind. There's a book, I have it at home,
Yes.
and I'm going to check when I go back. He lost his mind. Just the sheer scale of
atrocities in
What
a
he
country they
saw.
used to know.
Yes, the sheer scale of the atrocity.
Yes.
He lost his mind. Even after at the end of the war, when he went back to his country, he just
Yes,
lost
blank.
it completely.
Yes.
He could not.
And several people just lost their mind. I mean, and I will tell a short story of which a trainee psychologist in Nairobi told us how a young girl, age 7, when the genocide took place, watched her father shot on both knees. Watched her father shot and left to bleed to death. She watched that and she took it in. She was traumatized by it. Later in life, this girl had cancer on both knees. That's the power of the emotion. And she died of the cancer on both of her own knees. She was not shot. It's her father who was shot. They say this girl lived in guilt that she was not able to do anything to help, to ward off the attackers and to help her father. And she lived with such guilt. Maybe she never got adequate counseling. She lived with that guilt and ended up having cancer on both knees. That's the power of the emotion, of what she saw and the impact on her. To say war is evil, violence is evil. Pope John Paul II used to say, violence is evil. Avoid violence by all means, because it does not lead to anything good. If only our people can see this. Okay, we fought the Civil War. The next day after the Civil War, the next time after the Civil War, people who had seen blood, that's when we started having armed robbery now.
Yes.
We never had armed robbery before the Civil War. So war is evil, and our people must be told to avoid anything that can lead to violence, including provocative posts on social media and provocative writing, and Christians that are involved in this, because that is my own concern now.
Well, so apart from Christians, I mean, I think it is the duty of every citizen to embrace civility, to preach unity, and to preach love. To the best of my knowledge, there is no religion that promotes violence.
Fundamentally.
Fundamentally, there's none, to the best of my knowledge. And so, even when you engage, when you engage people of diverse religions, you're going to still hear some people who make claims in the name of these religions, but scholars who are well schooled, knowledgeable people still tell you that no, this is not what it is. So my call to action is to every citizen, and for Christians to lead the way as well, because peace and love is a very strong basis of our faith as well.
Yes.
And I couldn't just put it better.
And to come to recognize, as we feel the neglect, the social neglect, as we feel the destitution of our people, to come to recognize that, look, not that it helps my cause to know that the people in Maiduguri are equally deprived. It doesn't quite help my cause, but at least it can help my understanding.
Absolutely.
It can help my perspective that we are not the only ones that are victimized. Because that's what I see in this present cause. That it's as if, we in the southeast, the rest of Nigeria, they are squandering Nigerian money, everybody is enjoying. It's as if we are the ones that could come to understand that, look, we are in this together, in this terrible boat that is
Father, it's because of the way the program is. There are issues we haven't gone into, and it's understandable. But like the reference I made yesterday, when people talk about restructuring, what is this really about? When people talk about marginalization, what is it really about? And of course, there's a political dimension
that need to be sorted out.
That needs to be sorted out.
Sure.
Can be addressed, sitting down across the table.
Yes.
People must sit down and talk about some of these things. They are really fundamental, right?
Yeah.
And so that one is there, and we cannot deny it.
Of course.
They are real.
Of course. I mean, you see, when they perhaps very quickly, when the big powers, the Igbos and Hausas and Yorubas talk, we from the Middle Belt feel even more hot. It's as if we don't even matter. This is
you can see what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's as if we don't even matter.
Okay, how about the Jaws? How about the Birums? How about the Mangus?
Yeah,
how about
it's as if we don't even matter.
How about all these people? So, and that's why it's important that we respect each other, and that you have people who are sensible, people who are statesmen, people who understand statecraft. They must be the ones at the table. And they must be the ones to speak up, and they must be the ones to lead the way to help their people understand. It's almost like a divine responsibility. Because why do you have all that knowledge? Why do you have all that exposure? Why do you have all that knowledge if you cannot really shine the light when it is critical for you to do so?
The elite, those who went to secondary school, who went to unity schools particularly,
yes,
those who went to university, that investment was not made for nothing. The Lord gave us those opportunities so that we may be a light for our people, so that we may be a guiding light, a leading light for our people. What he's saying is that we do have a responsibility, and that it is a spiritual responsibility.
Absolutely.
On that note, we will bring this agreement. Thank you very much,
Thank you, sir.
Frank Nweke II, for coming to the studio. We will invite you again sometime for enlightening our people.
Thank you so
much. God bless
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.